And we're live. Oh, I didn't do the transition right. All right, we're live. Go ahead.
From your lips, we're live. Good. Hey, that means it is time. It's Thursday night, everybody. That means it's time for AUA, Ask Us Anything. My name is Pete Baker. We're with Alta Vista Assembly and New Wine in beautiful bucolic East Bakersfield, California in the USA. And we're going to be with you for the next 30 minutes or so and take some good questions. I am joined tonight by Brother Leon and Pastor Chris. And of course, joined tonight, as always, by Matthew, the moderator, the engineer, the smirker in chief. Why are you smirking?
Because his moment and calling me again. You're that.
It's just I don't want things to interrupt.
If you need to call your mom back, call her back.
We'll pause the show.
If you could send me the link, she wants the link for this.
Okay.
That's good.
Text it to me.
Okay, well, if she starts to watch, let me know, and we'll speak to this issue.
Okay.
Okay? Well, anyway, I'm joined tonight, as always, by Matthew, the moderator, who, Matt, this is our final time before our prescribed traditional summer hiatus. Do you know what the word hiatus means?
Yeah, it's like when you take a break, right? You go away and
That's
do something fun. Yeah.
Good. You've been reading Reader's Digest. So
There
what I
are
want you to do is greet the people and tell them how we play the game.
Hello, everybody. The way it works is you submit your questions in the comments. We'll ask those first, or you can go to the website, altavistaassembly.com/AUA and submit your questions there. You can also send Alta Vista Assembly a message on Facebook. And tonight we're going to be talking about a couple of memes that were curated by Pastor Pete. So I'm putting that out there before we show them because.
So wait, but are we taking live questions too?
Yeah, we can take live
Okay,
questions.
all
We
right.
actually have a live question already. If you want to take that, or if
Well,
you
you
want
are
to.
the engineer, so you tell us how you want to proceed.
Okay, let's take a live question, and we'll go into the.
Why don't we
memes.
do that?
That sounds like a great idea. What do you think, Chris?
I think that
I think you're.
I hate the
I
memes.
think you're
I
insecure.
hate,
Following
the,
our lead.
I hate the memes with all my heart, and I'd love the live question.
Yeah,
Make a decision, will
Okay,
you?
I am making a
I
decision.
love live questions.
If the Israelites bowed down to the Ark of the Covenant, why is bowing to a statue of Jesus idolatry?
Good question.
Well, first of all, the Ark of the Covenant was not a idol. It was a representation of God's presence. Now, if you want to get into like semantics and talk about what idols are, I guess you could come to the conclusion, and that's what we're doing tonight. We're dealing with gotcha questions, which this is definitely one of them. You could say that idols are the representation of God's presence. But let's talk about the Ark of the Covenant for a minute. So the Ark of the Covenant was something that God told the Israelites, the Levites, to build.
So it was his idea.
It was God's idea, and it had a lot of symbolism and representation of something very specific. So,
mercy seat.
so when Moses went up on the mountain, he received the commands of God, and he came down and he found the Israelites worshiping a golden calf because they couldn't wait for Moses to come down, and they were afraid, even after they had saw miraculous things. So they worshipped a golden calf. The 10 Commandments were broken, or Moses broke the 10 Commandments and went back up to the mountain and interceded for the people of Israel in order to, cause, or to stop God's wrath from destroying the people of Israel because of them worshiping an idol instead of the one true God. So if you fast forward through a lot of the texts, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, which are, instructions and a second telling to understand it, the Ark of the Covenant, even though Indiana Jones makes a really weird picture of it, was a basic representation of God's presence for them to follow. It was a box that contained the 10 Commandments that God had given, 2 cherubim, which were angels,
Throne guardians.
throne guardians on top. There's lots of depictions of it, and people who try to recreate what is, described in the original text. And there's a thing called the mercy seat that the priests would make blood sacrifices over. But the mercy seat was like kind of a grate between the two angels, which I know I'm not doing a good job of describing this. But when you saw through the grate, it was the 10 Commandments that were there. So when they made the sacrifice, it was to make a sacrifice for the sin that had been committed of the commandments that God had given to the nation Israel. So they weren't worshiping an object or a deity. Most of the deities, even if you were to fast forward to the first century, they weren't God. They were amplified humanity. They were bigger than humans. Thor, or like a lot of the things that we look at or have to grapple with the idea of God when we look at movies, or Zeus, or any of those gods, the goddess Diana, or any of those things. They were not God. They were just a amplified utilitarian way to look at humanity, something to worship so that you get something from. And that's not the way it was with the God of Israel. The God of Israel was the one true God, and he had said what his commands are, and he had said what what they were supposed to follow, and there could be a sacrifice that would atone for the things that had not been followed. That's my best answer for that.
Well, the fact is they didn't worship.
They didn't worship the ark.
It was an instrument that something bigger and higher and greater than itself.
It was a representation of the presence of God.
They didn't even pray to it.
Yeah.
They didn't sacrifice to it. It was an object that was put there as a reminder, a visible reminder of God's presence.
Wouldn't that be the similar than a statue of Jesus? Then wouldn't that just be?
Is that being asked right now, or are you asking?
No, I'm asking that. Is that?
Here's
I
the
know the
thing.
Ark of the Covenant is on a different level, but you're saying it's a representation of something higher. Isn't that the similar?
I don't think.
Are they actually worshiping that statue?
There is a lot of speculation. What happened to the ark? My personal take on it is it disappeared. It's gone. It was captured, melted down,
It's not Ethiopia.
destroyed.
Not there.
But I believe that we don't have the true ark for the same reason I don't believe we have the true shroud, we don't have the true cross, we don't have the true crown. I believe we don't have those things. We don't have the original manuscripts of the Gospel of John, etc., etc. Because we would do what is, on a popular level, often done with the simple veneration of a saint or an image of a saint, and that amounts to practical worship.
Yeah.
I think God allows those things to be dispersed. We do not have them, and other things beside, because of the human tendency to do just that. Yeah. To travel, pilgrimage, to see those things, and to effectively transfer our allegiance to those things and our attention to those things which belong exclusively our relationship to God. Yeah. That's what we are. That's why I say that the statues of saints, etc., people will say, I don't worship them. In effect, they do.
Yeah.
For the reasons that I've said. And so I don't even draw a parallel between the ark and the statues that effectively, practically are worshipped. Again, I've been in other places. I've been in Guatemala, Colombia, other places where people are worshiping those things. You may say officially that's not what we do. That's what they're doing on a practical level.
Yeah, and I totally agree with Pete. I think that it's a very big temptation, especially for the person who doesn't know. Especially for the introductory, person who comes to Christ and is told, when you walk into this building, you pay homage to this statue or whatever. That's idol worship, in my opinion, for sure.
And that
But I do
is
believe
dangerous.
the theological idea of having images and stuff like that. J.I. Packer, who wrote a lot about this stuff, calling most of what we do now, or not what we do now, but the Roman Catholic Church does now, calling it idolatry because they have made an image of the one true God. But St. John of Chrysostom, I can never say the name right, but he says we're not making an image of the one true God, but we're making a reminder of what God has made in flesh.
And reminders are great.
And reminders are great. I have icons in my office of Bible stories, and
I have a hideous one in my office.
did I give it to you?
Yes.
Hey, Matt.
Oh, I know which
I'm gonna
one.
jump on it when they.
Yeah, when Chris is done, you're next.
So for Christmas, I gave him.
Is it a mirror?
No, it's a. Yeah, that was not me. But I gave him.
That was completely
I gave him. So I went to this monastery for like a week to pray, and they had this, and I bought it specifically for Pete, and I waited for the next Christmas to give it to him, but it was, it's a Christmas icon of Rachel weeping over her lost babies because
Dang.
part of the Christmas story.
Children.
Every time I read or see that scripture, man, like I ain't gonna say I could feel it, but it moves me. Like it said, because they couldn't comfort her. Her children was no more. Like
Right.
a mother losing a child and wailing to the Lord like that. Bless you.
Horrible.
You know, that's something I don't know. It always just. That just seems.
Horrible.
But I want to jump on it real quick, man, because
Yeah,
there's a
finish
few
this
things
out.
I want to say, man, but I'm gonna just keep it short and simple, man. First of all, Matt, I want to say I think you are amazing at what you do, bro.
Thank you. I
You
appreciate
you really are, in all
Thanks.
seriousness, man. Like for real. You know
thank
what I'm saying? Obviously, the smartest man I ever met in my life, right there.
it. Right.
Role
Just be
model and
careful.
everything, bro.
Be careful.
You already know how amazing you are.
Just be careful
Listen,
you
man.
don't create Frankenstein's monster.
Yeah, you know, I just wanted to tell you though.
Thank you, I
Seriously, bro.
appreciate that.
But like for me, I would say it was obedience because
That's
you know with me, man. Like the other day, man, I was tripping out, like in the Bible, right? And with Adam and Eve, after they ate the fruit or whatever, God came and they hid from him, and he asked them like, "Hey, what happened?" Like he already knows what happened, but he still asked him. Just like when Cain killed his brother Abel, like, "Hey, where's your brother?" Like God gives us a chance to, regardless, no matter how wrong it is we did, he gives us a chance to be like real with him. You know what I'm saying? But I don't know why I even said that. To jump back, I feel it's obedience because it's when God say you got to do it, man. Like he said, my ways ain't like your ways, my thoughts not like your thoughts, man. So God has a reason behind everything. But to me, I feel like with the ark, like when he died and the veil got torn, he said it's finished, it got torn. It's like, okay, that's why even carving images and all that says make no images and bow down to him, because even with the cross, even if they found the cross, he ain't on there no more. So why do we want the cross? We got a God that lives in us. You know what I'm saying? But we want to hold, I think in our human nature, we want something we could physically hold, but you know, this walk ain't nothing physical, it's spiritual. It's a faith walk. We can't see the Lord right now. I can't, I don't know if y'all can, but I know he's here. I know he's inside of all of us. But my answer would be obedience because he told him to. But after that, whether the ark is still around or not, it doesn't matter because he lives in us. You know what I'm saying?
Can I say one thing before we move on from
Yeah,
this?
of course.
One of the things that we have to understand about importing the past to the future is that, like, we sit here and we read the Bible. Why can't you just have the Bible, is what we ask, to describe God, and then us imagine and have a supernatural relationship with God.
Yeah.
But we don't understand that even like in the early 19th century, most people were illiterate. And if you know people that were like, born in the early 1900s, if you were to ask them, like, how many of your friends, could read a book, they would say probably, around 50% of the people could read a book. But in the early 19th century, 18th century, just keep going, backwards in time, people were illiterate. And so the way that things were taught were images. And if you talk to a lot of people, even from our own Pentecostal tradition, they did not learn the Bible based upon reading memorization, the way that most of us today who were born after 1950 have learned. They learned through felt boards, different stories, hymns that they sang in church and things like that. And so I think I don't want to get onto the idea of like, images or statues or depictions of things is violating the second commandment. It's not. Because most of throughout Christian history, people were not literate enough to read the Bible. And the only thing they could do was listen and see.
And the other thing is that some paintings, some sculptures are beautiful.
Yeah.
Aesthetically, they're beautiful, and they do convey a message. Just to piggyback on what Leon was saying, I really think that, some of these commandments were given, and the one against idolatry is because God knows, He knows how we're made, obviously, and He tells us things for our flourishing. It would be best for you if you had a living relationship with me, and did not rely on and be very careful with images. Yeah. So while there can be images and they can be helpful, a la icons or whatever, paintings, beautiful pictures that can be helpful, even when we're literate, and can be reminders, I think we have to be careful.
Yeah, but so I just want to, I'm not pushing back, but like, what if you're not though?
It's different.
Yeah, but I mean, so
different.
when I got saved, God changed my life to the point where I became literate. But I never read a book before I got saved. I never did anything like that. And so when I got saved, I started to read, and it changed the way that I was. But before that, I had zero idea. Or like, for instance, if I don't read a translated version of the Bible, then it's just listening, right? I just think that there's a lot of focus when it comes to understanding salvation or having a relationship with God that is focused on being able to be literate and comprehend what the Bible says, instead of being able to receive the gospel stories
and have a relationship.
And
the
with
fact
God through
is,
that.
the visual can be very helpful. The Jesus film is used worldwide.
Yeah.
Millions of people that cannot read, don't have access to printed material, have benefited greatly from just that one presentation of the gospel. So the visual can be very good. It can be helpful. It can be a reminder. But we've got to be careful. It can also trip us
I've
up.
supported missionaries who go in and they take the little bit of the language that they know, record it on a tape recorder, and go hand it to the chief of the village to let them listen to, fragmented parts. And I just feel like the danger that we face by like making the distinction of like images or, auditory, learning is that we limit the amount of people that we can actually reach with it. I just think even in America, because like, I know literacy rates here are...
We got to wrap it up because we're going on 20 minutes on this question.
All right,
so.
sorry, go ahead.
No, it's okay. You can finish what your thought is.
I just think literacy rates and stuff like that are like they're a shadow data point. They say, okay, yeah, these kids passed this class. But when you come to read the Bible, a person who would even read the Passion or the Message or the New Living Translation, if they are 12 and above, they should be able to be at that reading level. I doubt they would be able to comprehend the spiritual truth just by picking it up. Now, I know the Bible will read them and maybe speak to them, but I don't believe that it's the end-all, be-all of the way that they can be reached by the gospel. It's just by the text.
But man, idolatry is super serious. It's in the word for a reason. So that's just like somebody feel like if I hold this cross, nothing bad can happen to you. No, you can have a relationship with God. You know what I'm saying? And
that's
because whatever
superstition.
you put your faith into, whether it's a cross or a picture of somebody that's not Jesus, because nobody know what he looked like.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Like whatever, if you putting that much faith into that, you're supposed to have that faith into God.
It's Jesus plus nothing.
Exactly.
What else you got?
All right, we're going to talk about your meme now. So I'm going to have it up. Can you pull the live stream up on that computer? So you and, because I'll put it up on the live stream. The first one we're going to talk about.
But it might echo. Let me make sure I have that.
Yeah, that's muted.
That much faith in it. You're supposed to have that faith into God. It's Jesus.
That one. Yeah.
Oh, it's a delay on it.
Well,
Okay.
Here.
nothing's really live.
Will the folks be able to see this one?
Yeah, it'll come up in a minute, folks.
Well, this one I noticed. I've noticed over the last 2 or 3 years pop up. You know, these things get cycled and recycled, and I think a lot of times people that post them and repost them, they didn't create them. Probably didn't put as much thought into them as the one who did create them, but they're posting it really to make sure that we know that they're with that tribe, or I subscribe to this idea, or I'm not that, or I am this. And people do that with political
That's
memes
you right now.
and Bible verses and all kind of stuff. So it's just, I want to identify with this group, not with that group, I think is why a lot of people post some of these things. But this one that came up directs us to Deuteronomy 22. And as you're seeing the meme, it says, if you find a virgin girl alone, this is what the Bible says, it's only 50 shekels to rape her and own her for life. That's the
not what it
meme's
says.
interpretation of that Deuteronomy passage. Let me just say, individual humans, takes a long time to change a person. Takes a longer time to change a society, a civilization, a culture. Our country, in a few weeks, we're gonna celebrate the most significant sentence ever written. In the Declaration, it talks about how all men are created equal, and we're endowed with by our Creator with certain inalienable rights, life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. Well, that's what we were founded on. But 80 plus years after that, 7 years ago, Mr. Lincoln is dedicating a cemetery to 74,000 young lives that have been lost because that had not yet been realized, that all people are created equal. And so he says that this was the proposition we were founded on, but we have not lived up to it. It took that long before anybody really did anything to make sure that all people are treated equal. We said at the beginning all people are created equal, but all people were not treated equal. That same phrase gets repeated in the declaration that begins the women's movement, the women's right to vote movement. That doesn't happen until 1920. That same phrase, all men are created equal, that was Dr. King's in his last speech. Those words were spoken by the president when the Civil Rights Act was signed in '68. What I'm saying is, it takes a long time. You know, it's taken 250 years, and we're still not there yet, that all men are created equal. We say we believe that, but it takes a long time to get there. What we've got in Deuteronomy 22 with this reference is the beginnings of something that, if you look ahead to someplace like Romans 16, where Paul is signing off and he greets all these church leaders, you see a listing of all kind of women leaders. You see women pastors listed. You see women deacons listed. You even see one woman who's referred to as an apostle. She's notable among the apostles. She's an apostle just like Paul's an apostle. And he calls her out for special mention. What you've got is, in the first century church, as Paul will say, there's neither Greek nor Jew, there's neither slave nor free, there's neither man nor woman. There was equality. Now, were they the same? No, but within the church, there's no discrimination. There are differences without discrimination within the body of Christ. That was the ideal, had begun to be realized in the first century. Now, unfortunately, the church went backwards. You can lose these things, and we're just now getting back to where we should be because we lost it. But the point is, from the time that Deuteronomy is written, and this meme is talking about, that was the beginning of something that will issue in, ideally, full equality, full participation, full recognition. when Deuteronomy is written, women were brutalized. There were no courts, there were no jails, there were no cops, there was no, if a woman was brutalized, she had no recourse. There was nothing. There were no advocacy groups, she could go to no one. She was completely without any agency or power. So what's happening in Deuteronomy is the beginning of something. You look at Deuteronomy, and what it says is that if a man he sees a woman unattended in the field and he forces himself on her, that he is required then to pay 50 shekels. He's required to take her as his wife, and he cannot, under any circumstances, divorce her. He has to treat her as his wife for life. Well, we look at that and we say, wow, man, that's crude. By our lights, yes, but you have to look at what was before. When legal theorists look at the development of law and ethics and that sort of thing, they talk about the era before this. This is the era of eye for eye, tooth for tooth, and we say that's rough. You know, that's rough.
But that was an innovation.
Before it,
That
what
was an
came
innovation.
before it was what the legal people called the lex talionis, the law of the talon, whereby if somebody knocked your tooth out, you could burn their village down and take all their stuff, kill all their kids. There were no limits on retribution and punishment. Along comes eye for eye, tooth for tooth, and it says you can do that, but no more. And this Deuteronomy 22, how this woman is treated, is part of that. It's an improvement over what went before it. Is it what we would idealize today? No, but it's a vast improvement. Look at it. Let me read the Deuteronomy. Look at what it actually says, because this meme is kind of putting out there, it kind of is misleading, saying that a guy would do this on purpose because then all he's got to do is pay 50 shekels and then he can rape her all he wants for life. That's not what it says. If a man finds a girl who is a virgin, who is not engaged, in other words, she has no covering, and seizes her and lies with her, and they are discovered, then the man who lay with her shall give to the girl's father 50 shekels of silver. Let me just say, 50 shekels of silver represents several years of wages. So if a person makes $100,000, rounded off, today, $700,000 is what he's got to pay. Okay? He's got to pay that, and that's not negotiable. And she shall become his wife, not his servant, not his concubine, his wife. And there is some status with that. Not like today, but there is some. Because he has violated her, and he cannot divorce her at all his days. So he's got to pay this tremendous sum. What that in effect does is, if a guy sees a girl in the field, he's going to jolly well think really hard, because this is not negotiable. If I do this, if I rape her, if I force myself on her, I've got to pay several years of my wages. And that's not negotiable. That's best case scenario. And I've got to take her as my wife. Now, what that meant was, in the world where she had no standing, a woman had no protection, there were no safety nets. If she was unmarried, or if she had had sexual relations without marriage, she's damaged, stigma. The only way she can survive is in poverty and prostitution. So while this looks crude to us, it saves her from that. Because now she has status, now she's a wife, and she cannot be put away. She can't be divorced. And so while it appears crude to us and it makes a very funny meme, it's not saying that the guy gets full license, he just pays a little bit of money and he has her for life. No, it's some measure of protection for her. And we know that it worked because you have people, women of prominence that arise, and they're not hassled. And they're not brutalized like they would have been without this. You get people like Abigail, who are business people and have some standing in the community, and many other women in the Old Testament. What I'm saying is, it did protect women, to the point that in the book of Judges, chapter 19, there's a famous case of a gang rape. In this case, the gang rape of a servant girl. She dies as a result of the brutalization. And it causes a national outrage to the point that it causes a civil war. And the group of people that did this are punished severely, like really severely. And the people that harbor them and hide them, the same. I mean, it's a civil war over it, because this institution almost effectively put an end to the brutalization on that level. Now, was it perfect? No. But it was pointing towards something, and it was in the right direction, and it's better than what it was. And it's not quite the way it reads on the meme. It really did provide a measure of protection for the woman that she would not have had in any other society.
You want to go to the next one? You got something?
Oh, I do, but
Go for it.
I know what time it is.
No, it's okay. We're gonna do
Well,
one more
I
after
think
this,
everything Pete said is very relevant to understanding the text, and they're all things that should be considered. The only thing that I would add to it is the understanding of having a relationship with the one true God and grappling with all of these archaic understandings of the way things happened in the Old Testament. There's many a book written about like what's the difference between the God in the Old Testament and the God in the New Testament. And I think one of the best theologians to listen to, although many of my compatriots and comrades would probably say that I'm wrong for mentioning his name. He's not mentioned well in the evangelical world, but Paul Tillich gives a really good understanding of this, is that often what we try to do with God is that we try to read his word and contextualize him from whatever century we're reading and put him into our century. And we forget that that Jesus Christ is the Lamb of God that was slain before the foundation of the earth, and that God is always ahead of us. And the phrase I like to use is that God is always a gentleman. God does not make humans do what he wants. We're not robots that he controls. We are people whom he shepherds. And when you understand it from that perspective, you realize some of the stuff that Pete was mentioning right now is that, like, one of the ones that I don't understand why it's never brought up, but like there was this rule given to Israel that when they went to, battle with their enemies, that when they won, they could plunder everything. They could take whatever they wanted. But any woman that was married, that they could take her, but if she was allowed to shave her head, and she was allowed to have a certain amount of time, and then if they decided to take her as their own, she was given full privileges. And Pete just talked about that in the sense of the girl who was raped in the fields.
And that sounds brutal to us.
It's brutal.
If she is unattached, she is super vulnerable.
It's brutal and archaic, right?
But it's better than what it was.
It's advanced from the point that we're at.
And we've got to always remember, with these kind of stories that sound eye for eye, tooth for tooth, that just sounds so brutal.
I'm going to transition to the other one just to put it out there.
But what we've got to always remember is, while the Bible was written for you, it was not written to you.
Yeah, that's right.
It was written to this.
That's probably the best phrase that somebody could walk around with about that.
It was written to address this situation.
You're talking to. It's like we want to say God wasn't there and that's why it happened. No, God was ahead, pulling people forward, but people weren't. I mean, I talked about this when I preached on Sunday. There's that poem or whatever it is where there's only one footprints. You know what I'm talking about? Like, I only saw one set of footprints. Yeah. Well, there's a funnier one where there's a set of footprints and then two lines, and instead of it being it cusses in it, but it says instead of it being I only saw one set of footprints, God basically says, this is where I drug your But
Yeah.
and like God is always dragging us forward. It's not to say that and a lot of people screw this up about the Bible. A lot of people say, the Bible condones these type of things. No, the Bible has room to evolve into what is right and just and true, justice, mercy, truth all the time. But it's just like, like what was okay back then to stone somebody. No reasonable person thinks it's okay to stone somebody now.
And again, written for you, but not to you. And so this is the beginning of something. It's much better than the chaos that came before it, much better for the women, while it sounds, brutal to us. But the goal was what Paul talks about in Romans 16, where there's perfect parity.
Yeah.
Now, again, the church wanted to be like the world, and we went backwards for about 1,800 years.
And that's the problem.
And now we've got to get back to where we should be, but it was a start.
So let's transition.
We
into the
evolve
next
and
meme.
copy in the ways of the world instead of the ways of God.
Hey Matt, when we come back after our break, could we revisit this? Because this.
Oh, yeah.
I want to say something so
Hey,
bad, but I don't want
let
to
me
take up
let me
your
drop a
time.
bomb real quick though, for somebody to think about. This is the problem with fundamentalism versus being open to what the Spirit has to say.
Well, and the fact is, some of the meme writers are take the Bible as literally as
You still have it
the
up?
King James only guys.
Yeah.
Some of the critics of the Bible are just as literalist as the people that say, God said it, I believe it, that settles it.
Gosh.
So let's transition into the
pick
next
these?
one. Yeah, you transition to the next one. He picked these. He sent us to these us at 2 a.m. So we
So
gotta
what's the
check these out.
What's the problem?
Okay, this one cites Ezekiel. This meme writer cites Ezekiel, where there is an admonition to just wholesale slaughter the inhabitants of Jerusalem and get rid of them because they're all bad to the core. There's not
So this
one
is
good one.
retweeted by the people who say compassion is a sin.
And so what it means is, as it says, this is punishment from God, and then it's usually, a justification for saying, how can you believe a book like that? How can you believe in a God like that would call for that kind of wholesale slaughter? I only would submit this, that if you read the entire passage, which includes, this is a vision, this is a dream that Ezekiel has when he's in Babylon. Ezekiel was a refugee. He was taken by the Babylonians from his home when he was a young man, maybe a boy, from Jerusalem, his home, to Babylon. You could walk it straight. It's about 650 miles, but nobody walked it straight. You had to avoid the deserts and mountains and things. So it's 900 traveling miles away. He's in Babylonia now. He's having a dream. This is a dream. Verses chapters 8, 9, 10, 11 are a dream of what is going to happen as a result of Israel turning their back on God. They have not practiced believing loyalty. And so they have turned their back on God, and it details it in the dream. Animal worship, horoscope worship, on it goes. But the result is that they've left themselves open and vulnerable to ugly, dark forces, and they're going to suffer for it. And the temple will be lost, and God will leave Jerusalem. He'll have no place to dwell in the temple. The temple will be destroyed. It's a dream. The dream does not all come true. This is not a fact of God doing this.
It sounds like a nightmare.
It is a nightmare. And it does not come true the way he dreams it. But I would point out that what does come true in Ezekiel is that he ends up, the story ends up in chapter 11, where God restores everything. These people that in his dream, he sees God saying, rip them apart, destroy them, slaughter them all. Here's what actually happens. Here's what God actually does. He restores them. Chapter Ezekiel 11, verse 19, and I will give them one heart and put a new spirit within them. and I will take out the heart of stone and their heart of flesh and give them a new heart, and they will walk with me in my statutes and keep my ordinances and do them. And when we do that, God knows that's how we have the best chance of flourishing. And they will be my people, and I will be their God. So God doesn't divorce himself from them. He restores them. The important thing to remember, and the meme misses, is it was a dream, a nightmare that did not come true.
So they're taking the Bible out of context. You got some?
Well, not out of context. It's in context, but they didn't read the whole thing.
Yeah, and I just want to plug one thing and I'll shut up. I think that we need to hear from Leon.
Yes.
No, but
It's on you. It's on you.
if you go on Bro Ferg at Facebook or Ferg's Thoughts, I have two different pages, but there's old things. I put a whole thing out called Memeology.
And you're Ferg, right? You're the Ferg.
I'm Ferg.
Yeah.
But I put a whole like hour-long thing on memes and why they shouldn't be trusted as theology, because I do think it's
It's not obvious.
well, it's not obvious actually. To most
It isn't.
people.
And as
See,
I say,
what you don't understand is like Lifeway Christian stores, Berean Christian stores, all of these places where, let's just say you got saved on a Sunday morning, like Jesus spoke to you. The next thing you're going to do is talk to somebody at church or somebody that brought you to church. What do I do next? And they're going to be like, read the Bible. You're going to do that for like maybe a half a day, and you're going to ask for help. Now, churches like ours offer a lot of help in going in that direction, but not every church does. And so, because social media and stuff like that is so
accessible.
popular and accessible, what happens is people start looking for things, and there's a lot of psychology attached to these algorithms and everything to find. So there's this. I know we're way over time, but there's parts of the brain that are constantly looking for things. For instance, like if you were thinking about buying a Mazda CX-5, you saw it on the internet and you looked at it, like maybe I could have that car. Chances are you go drive around, you'll see all the Mazda CX-5s you've never seen before because you start looking for them. It's called the reticulating activator. And the algorithms use that. So like if you search something about Jesus, like let me look at what the pastor said on his stream or whatever, it's going to start serving you up stuff. And a lot of it's toxic, like the stuff that we've been talking about tonight.
Well, and people that are pro-Bible, people that are anti-Bible, very often, and it's kind of funny to me, they're both literalists.
And
they take it literally. Like this
Absolutely
one,
right.
that God said that literally, and it literally happened. And they didn't examine it to see it was a dream. It was a nightmare that never happened. In fact, the opposite happened.
And
He restored.
it becomes ambiguous to the viewer. Like we don't know.
But it reinforces a certain idea, and I don't ascribe maliciousness to everybody that that reposted this meme, because they didn't put the thought into it that the original creator did. The original creator may have had a malevolent, purpose to it. I think most people just pick it up and they put it out there and they want you to know that I am part of this tribe, I'm not part of that tribe.
That's true.
And people do that with Bible verses. They do it with anti-stuff. They do it with political stuff. I want you to know I'm this party, not that party. I support this person, not that person. That's why they do it. They don't put a lot of thought into it.
Or they're motivated by getting attention.
Yeah.
Leon,
So, go.
give us your final thoughts, sir.
I just want to say,
Take us home.
Could we
Land the
revisit
plane.
this one too? Because
Yeah, we can. We're just
I
kind of.
want to go into it because even in Psalms, it's prayers about.
We're at 48
they,
minutes.
They want Lord, dads let their kids get hit into the rock. It's real, raw, authentic prayers how somebody felt. Even in Isaiah, could we revisit this when we come back?
That's a
Yeah,
good one.
absolutely.
That's a very good one right there.
I hate that.
So
But
that-
I want to say,
That's
I feel
something
like
I didn't think of.
whoever doing a lot of these memes, I feel
He's
like
the one who
they
found
cherry
it.
picking the Bible.
Yeah.
And it's sad because some of them know the Bible, but they don't know the Lord.
And they'll
so they're
say
reading
they'll
it.
say we're advocating for that.
Yeah.
Well,
We
this
say the Bible is
case
God's word.
here, Leon, the passage 8 through 11 of Ezekiel that contains that awful nightmare, it also contains this, and I will give them one heart, and I will restore them, and they'll be my people, and I'll be their God. And even though they've done all these bad things, they're still mine.
Yeah, they lead a restoration.
That's the rest of
and
the story.
Yeah.
I'll say the saddest thing I could say today is that most of the church at large, the people who say that they believe in Jesus, suffer from biblical illiteracy and dependence upon being spoon-fed from pastors. And therefore, a lot of the people who would be posting memes, since that's what we're talking about, really don't know what they're talking about. They're looking at something uninformed. And it doesn't mean that they have to go to seminary to be able to understand these things. But my call is always for a more biblically literate, average person that comes to church. They need to be able to understand how to read, how to
Sound doctrine.
discernment, sound doctrine.
Leon and I are
all
part
of
of
those
a
different
of a
things.
Zoom on Sunday night, and that's what it's called. Learning to read. In this case, we're on Colossians. Learning to read Colossians. How do you read the Bible?
But it's important when we talk about memes and stuff like that because
So people seen it. A lot of believers have seen it.
Finish this out, Leon. Finish this out.
How much time we got? I mean,
We got 2 minutes. I'll give you 2.
2 minutes.
Nah, I don't want to hit it all.
Give you
Take
1
it
minute.
home.
1 minute. Yeah,
Nah,
take it home.
I just want to say, honestly, man, I feel like even as me, as a believer, in the past, God don't look at if we really knew how God looked at us, we'd have more compassion on other people. For example, I have on a Snoop Dogg shirt. If I would have seen somebody that had on a shirt like that, I would think, oh, they can't be saved. But they don't know I wore this to work. Yeah, I did wear it to work, and I'm not going to change and act like something I'm not, but I'm a believer. I love the Lord. I don't worship this man. I don't even listen to his music. I used to when I was younger, but I don't listen to his music no more. But judging from the outer appearance is what people do. Even myself, us as humans.
Even your pastor when you walked into the house today.
Well, actually,
I'm gonna keep it real next week or next time. I'm gonna wear a Tupac shirt.
I knew it. I knew it would go there. I knew it would go there.
Yeah,
That's
I
why,
take it.
out of the corner of my eye, when I saw it, I thought it was Tupac, and I thought, no, don't feed him.
If I wasn't so overweight, I could have worn the Tupac. But honestly, man, I feel that, we got to, like Paul talk about the people that had a letter, that had a word, but they don't have the Spirit of God in them to where they don't have the understanding. So you could quote the scripture, and a lot of these people had church hurt, and they know the word, but they're trying to convince people that the word is wrong. But even if God don't need us to justify his word, because the word of God is going to speak for itself.
Your mic shut off. Take a Chris. Yeah.
Is that
Let me see it.
All right,
I forgot what I was
Hey,
saying. man.
repeat everything you just said.
I don't even remember.
That's okay. We got 1 minute, so just close this out.
Yeah, the beautiful thing about the word of God, man, is that it won't return void. So, God, his word, it's impossible for it to return void. He's never lost a battle. As Pastor Chris said, he's a gentleman. As Pastor Pete did, he totally, rightfully divided the word beautifully. A lot of people know the word and they could quote it and everything, but they don't know Christ. You know what I'm saying? And them memes and everything, that's why it's so important to study to show yourself approved. You have to read the word. You have to. Even if you listen to it. Faith come by hearing and hearing by his word. The more we get it in us, memes and stuff like that, you already know because you can spiritually discern it. And the sad part about it, a lot of them know or knew the Lord, and for whatever reason, we as humans will take stuff out on God what other people did. We looking at God from our lens as like a person. But the word said God is not a man that he should lie. Every human I ever met, somebody didn't sin on this earth and said we all have. He never did. So I think his word is always going to confirm itself. Them memes, they going to be there, and some of them is semi-truth. 99% could be true, but that 1% of strychnine will strike you dead.
Which is the
It'll
most
kill you.
dangerous.
So you gotta know how to you gotta be aware of the craftiness. Like Apostle Paul said, we're not ignorant of Satan's devices. So all of this stuff on social media, just bury your face in the word. And some of the memes is funny and everything. I get it, but stick to sound doctrine.
To quote an old movie,
There you go.
the greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing the world he didn't exist.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you, Pete.
Well, there we go. Well, this is our last one for our
Till
summer
when?
break.
Till when?
August-ish, sometime in
Pastor Pete, can
August.
we revisit them 2 questions?
Absolutely.
Over we come
I
back?
really want to, and and I'm going to make a note.
Yeah.
I want to go back to both of those,
Yeah.
but I want to come at them from this angle.
Yeah.
What if they're right?
Yeah. Yeah. That's what
I love thinking that when I encounter somebody, I don't get rattled when people, present these kind of questions. I don't get rattled, but I do entertain the thought, what if you're right?
Yeah.
Let's play it out. What if you're right?
Yeah.
So I'd love to do that. But anyway, we have been with you for the last 30
Hour.
minutes
We did
plus.
an hour.
We did an hour. Somebody last week said you should do an hour, so we did.
I think we should.
Anyway, it's been our privilege to have you join us for this time. We hope it's been helpful to you. As we said, it is our last one until August or so. But you're going to continue to post best of.
You always say that. I don't have a best of.
We don't. We've never done a best of. We've got the same old stuff.
Pastor Pete, why y'all don't post the ones with you and Matt over the time we are?
We
Those
do. I
was
do
real
sometimes.
good, man.
I do.
Some of the old
Those
ones.
are real.
Some of the old ones.
Man.
So anyway, it's been great that you joined us. We are with Alta Vista Assembly in New Wine, and we have a schedule that runs something like this: 8:30 prayer. We have an hour of extraordinary prayer on Sunday. Our English service is at 10. Pastor Tino is preaching this week, and his topic is one more move. So Tino will be preaching. Be in prayer for Tino too. He's facing some problems with back and legs, and we're looking for God to touch his body and life. But he'll be bringing the word on Sunday. English service 10 o'clock. We've got a 2 o'clock Spanish. Pastor Chris comes back at 5 o'clock with New Wine. We've got other things throughout the week. You can check us out online at altavistaassembly.com. It's got our schedule. We do some live streams, some other things, our Tuesday night, and a whole bunch of other stuff. As we referenced, we've got a Zoom how to read the Word on Sunday afternoons. So anyway, any and all of that you may be interested in. You will hear from Tino on Sunday.
You're gonna live stream it Sunday. I'm out of town, so Brian and Robbie will live stream.
Okay, it will actually be live streamed.
It'll be live streamed
Oh,
this week,
okay,
yes.
that'll be different. So you can check it out at 10 o'clock, the live stream. But whether we see each other next time live or live stream, let's do our very best to stay connected.
And check out my stuff on Memology. Ferg's Thoughts.